friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Megan, and in honor of our Miss Taylor Swift announcing and releasing her Tortured Poets Department album, I will be doing book recommendations based on the first 15 songs. So I'm going from Fortnite all the way to Clairvaux, and we are only doing the first 15. Next week I will come out with the rest and the anthology, but there are so many songs on this album to break down and to go through that it felt much easier to break it into two sections, just like Taylor did with the two albums. So first and foremost, we have Fortnite. Now this one to me, especially after watching the music video, feels like kind of a reality versus daydreams, and obviously there's the asylum factor in the music video and everything, so I'm picking a book that had a very unreliable narrator, and that is House of Salt and Sorrow by Aaron A. Craig. This is a dark retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses, and the narrator is definitely unreliable. They are all over the place, and you're still always trying to figure out what's going on even when it's directly told to you. So that feels very much like the reality versus like what Taylor was wanting in the song Fortnite. So House of Salt and Sorrows is my choice for that. The second song on the album is the titular Tortured Poets Department. So for that I chose The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This felt, one, perfect because it's all about like muses and history and wanting to live forever. And secondarily, I think that the chorus part where it's like, who's gonna decode you, who's gonna hold you like me, could definitely apply to our main love interest because he is the only one that truly sees her, literally. So, and if you aren't aware, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue tells the story of a young woman who decides that she doesn't want to actually marry the man that she is in arranged marriage with, so she makes a deal with a devil or demon of this world to live forever. However, the catch is that she'll never be remembered until one day she goes into a bookshop and someone remembers her. So I love the unfolding of this romance, and I think it definitely fits the Tortured Poets Department vibes. This next one might be a little bit controversial, but I think it fits perfectly. The next song is My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys, and for this I chose Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, specifically following Kaz, because he is a morally gray main character who forms a team of misfits to go on this huge heist. These are his favorite people that he's like recruiting, but because he's morally gray, there's like lines that he's willing to cross, and so he's literally willing to break his favorite people to get what he wants. And there's lyrics in this song that I feel specifically apply to Kaz and Inej, so let me pull them up here. The sickest army doll, perfect because Inej is like a spy and she's his soldier. Because you should have seen him when he first saw me, when he first saw her in the menagerie. Of course he wanted her. I'm the queen of sandcastles he destroys. It's like she is the queen of his heart, but he keeps destroying everything around him to get what he wants. He took me out of my box, stole my tortured heart. He rescued her from the menagerie and then like stole her heart, but he doesn't actually want to give himself. So yeah, Kaz and Inej, Six of Crows, My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys. Next is Down Bad. This is one of my favorites for sure, and I am recommending Circe by Madeline Miller. This one is interesting because I feel like Circe is just someone who doesn't give a crap about anything. So every time it says in Down Bad, F it if I can't have him, I'm like, Circe would totally be on par with that. If you don't know, this is the mythological Greek retelling of Circe, and she is the witch that was isolated from her family and like kind of imprisoned on an island by herself. And at one point Odysseus comes during like the Iliad Odyssey sequence from that storyline, and obviously he has to leave, and she definitely is like, F it if I can't have him, you know? Next is So Long London, which is my personal favorite song on the track. There's a lot of lines I really like, but for the purposes of book recommendations, I'm going to recommend A Darker Shade of Magic, and not necessarily for any of the romance or characters in the book, but more so Kel, our main character's relationship with the royal family and how they use his magic. And I chose this for So Long London because A Darker Shade of Magic tells the story of 4 different worlds that are connected, and they are all connected at the central point, which is London. So there's Black London, Red London, White London, and Grey London, and Kel can travel between the 4 worlds through London. So Long London felt perfect for this one. But Daddy, I Love Him, I feel like Favorite from A Court of Thorns and Roses is perfectly in sync with But Daddy, I Love Him. I honestly can't think of a better character to represent that song. I'm having his baby. Actually, I was gonna make a joke about Catching Fire and how PETA is like, if it weren't for the baby. But otherwise, I feel like A Court of Thorns and Roses really fits But Daddy, I Love Him. Even I would say somewhat more so A Court of Mist and Fury, but that is for the people who have read A Court of Mist and Fury. Fresh out the slammer, I chose Scythe because this is a utopian world in which death has been eradicated, and the only way that you pass on is through a scythe. These are people who are appointed to basically go around gleaning people, aka offing people, and it's pretty much random, and they are charged with doing these gleanings. And we are following 2 different main characters who are apprenticing under one scythe, which has never been done before. And so the Scythe Council decides that these 2 are actually going to compete, and whoever wins has to scythe the loser. Except our issue is that our 2 main characters are falling in love with each other. So Fresh Out the Slammer is, I felt, appropriate for this because I actually don't know if I can describe it without spoiling the end of book 1. So just trust me when I say I feel like this is the right book for Fresh Out the Slammer. Next is Florida, and I chose Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. I chose this for 2 reasons. One, after listening to Florida several times, I feel like it's following some sort of crime and trying to hide from the police kind of vibe. And this is a true crime YA novel. I don't know that I could say true crime, but like a thrillery suspense crime mystery novel, because it is fiction. I don't believe that it is true crime. And then secondarily, I feel like a lot of people, including myself, struggled for a long time to pick up on what Florida meant. And I feel like a lot of people struggle to follow along this storyline just like I did. And yeah, I feel like they are pretty in tune with how people react to them. Guilty as Sin, I feel like the entire Bridgerton series applies to this song, but I'm going to pick one. Most specifically is When He Was Wicked by Julia Quinn. This is following our 6th book. Oh yeah, book 6. It's following our 6th sibling of the Bridgerton family, Francesca, and she was actually married. However, at the beginning of her book, this is not a spoiler, I think a lot of people know, at the very beginning of the book, it's like basically the prologue, her husband passes away like without notice, and she is close with her husband's cousin, and the cousin has always pined after Francesca, and then he moves away for 5 years because he can't handle being near Francesca without the barrier of the cousin slash husband there. And so when he returns, it's those two kind of like unwantingly pining for each other, and they feel guilty because they love John and don't want to like besmirch his memory by being together, but they are just infatuated with each other. So I feel like guilty as sin applies perfectly to this one. Also, I do want to say I really enjoyed this one, but literally the last line made me love this book, and it had me sobbing my eyes out. So there you have it. Who is Afraid of Little Me is probably also in my top 3. I'd say it's number 2, I think. And honestly, it feels like such a good book talk sound. I feel like so many of our female heroine main characters just apply to this, but I'm going to go with Violet Sorrengail from Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, because her whole storyline is that she was small and frail, and all these people built her up and then become afraid of her once she's powerful. So I feel like Fourth Wing is perfect because it just tells that story of like, you built me, why are you afraid of me? Like, you made me, but then you caged me. So yes, love it. I Can Fix Him is, I don't know why, I just think it's a funny song, but so relatable. For this, I'm going to go with Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I feel like Tella and her love interest, which actually isn't shown more until Legendary. Honestly, she has 2 love interests, and both of them feel very much in the I can fix him, no really I can't vein. So yeah, I think that Tella's love stories are perfectly defined by that song. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this one, but the next one is LOML, which we discovered while listening to the song that stood for Loss of My Life. So I'm going to go with The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller for this one. Again, not going to go into a lot of detail there, but I'm basing it not off the whole song, but specifically that last line of Loss of My Life. That's all you gotta know. I Can Do It With a Broken Heart is the boppiest of bops on this album, but it is also such a sad song. So I feel like I chose a book with some like level of tragedy in it, but it has a beautiful, beautiful cover. Probably one of my favorite covers that I have on my shelves, and that is Daughter of the Moon Goddess. This is one of my favorite like aesthetically looking books that I have, and I love it so much, but it does have quite a bit of sadness in it. We have a daughter being separated forcefully from her mother. We have like a love triangle that kind of has a betrayal in it. So there's a lot going on in this book, and I feel like I Can Do It With a Broken Heart fits. The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived, I am going to give credit to pretty much everyone on TikTok, because every time I watch an edit of this movie slash book compared with this song, I'm like, there is no better comparison. And that is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, featuring Lucy Gray and President Snow when he was back in his teenage years. And I literally get chills watching these edits on TikTok. You should go watch one if you get a chance, but I'll break down a few of the parts. Mostly the bridge is what like really hits. Were you sent by someone who wanted me dead? Did you sleep with a gun underneath our bed? Were you writing a book? Were you a sleeper cell spy? In 50 years will this all be declassified? I like, how is that part like not perfect for Lucy and Snow? Because even up to like Katniss and Snow, because 50 years later it's being declassified what happened in that Hunger Games. So perfect example. Kudos to all of you who put it together on TikTok. I'm always astonished. Then we have The Alchemy, another one of my favorites. Honestly, like, it is so hard to pick a favorite or like a group of favorites, because every time I read one I'm like, oh, that's my favorite, no, that's my favorite, no, that's my favorite, because it's like that recency bias. So I don't even know if I can rank them. But for The Alchemy, I am going again with Six of Crows, but instead of Kaz this time, I'm going with Nina and Matthias. I almost said them for Fresh Out the Slammer as a joke, but I feel like The Alchemy just perfectly describes them and also kind of fits the vibe of the Six of Crows Grisha verse. Because the sign on your heart said it's still reserved for me. Who are we to fight the alchemy? That just feels like perfectly like Nina and Matthias, because despite everything that happened to them, they still found their way back to each other. I love them. They're one of my favorite book couples of all time. And yes, The Alchemy. And finally, we have Clarabelle, and I feel like this is pretty fitting. This is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Clarabelle, to me, I interpret it as kind of two things. Firstly, that we're waiting for like the next it girl, and also Taylor's fear and like worry about the next it girl and her becoming just kind of gone. So I feel like Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo has that kind of same vibe, with Evelyn like constantly pushing boundaries and doing things to stay on top per se. And it is supposed to be a loose retelling of Marilyn Monroe, who I feel like fits in that vein as well. So I feel like this is a great example of Clarabelle. So those are my first round of recommendations. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll check in with you next week for round 2 with the anthology tracks. Bye friends!